explain to you folks the significance, the very serious significance of what President Obama did to Israel and the contrast of what he said that he would do for Israel when he was trying to get elected and getting the Israeli-American vote compared to what he's done now. This piece from Dr. Michael Brown at barbedwire.com goes on, quote, "I doubt anyone listening to his speech in 2008 would have imagined he would end up striking such a disastrous deal with Iran, one that not only rewarded the Iranians with billions of dollars, some of which would be used to fund terrorism that John Kerry himself admitted to, but which also gave them a clear path to nuclear development in the coming years. Is this not the height of betrayal? But there's more. In 2008, candidate Barack Obama said this, quote, "I have long understood Israel's quest for peace and the need for security, but never more so than during my travels there 2 years ago. Flying in an Israeli Defense Forces helicopter, I saw a narrow and beautiful strip of land nestled against the Mediterranean. On the ground, I met a family who saw their house destroyed by a rocket. I spoke to Israeli troops who faced daily threats. I talked to the people who wanted nothing more simple or elusive than a secure future for their children." Yet in 2011, President Obama suggested that Israel return to its pre-1967 borders, which would reduce this, quote, "narrow and beautiful strip of land," as he called it, to be even more narrow, to as few as just 9 miles wide, thereby committing national suicide. In 2015, it was reported by the New York Times from a senior administration official that, quote, "President Barack Obama is considering agreeing to United Nations Security Council resolution embodying the principles of a two-state solution that would be based on the pre-1967 lines between Israel and the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. Making things even worse is the very strong evidence that the Obama administration itself actually worked directly with the Palestinian leadership to craft and advance this recent UN Security Council resolution, despite the administration's denials." Now, this is something that the mainstream press just hasn't talked about at all. But this resolution condemning Israel, right now the criticism on President Obama is that he allowed this to happen by abstaining when he had the power and the authority to veto this. He has veto power. The U.S. has veto power, and he chose not to use it, reversing decades of tradition of defending Israel. But is it possible that President Obama and his administration was secretly working with the Palestinians to craft this entire plan? In other words, is it possible that President Obama was actually in on some plan to set up a condemnation of Israel? Now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not one of those people who tends to say, oh yeah, the president was involved in that nefarious thing. But as Dr. Brown points out, he says, let's look at the evidence here. Number one, discussion took place months in advance by political pundits that this was one of the options being discussed by the administration. How did these political pundits know this? I guess just lucky guessing. All right, that's not enough evidence yet for me. But number two, Prime Minister Netanyahu, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, stated unequivocally that he is convinced that America was behind this resolution. And Netanyahu would hardly make a claim like that without ironclad information. And he said he has, quote, rather ironclad information. So Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, he's saying he has ironclad information that shows that the United States government was actually behind this resolution and working behind the scenes to get this resolution brought out. Now, Benjamin Netanyahu could be wrong. He could be lying. I'd be surprised if he was either. And then number three, an Egyptian paper released transcripts of a purported meeting between John Kerry and Palestinian officials from early December planning out this very strategy. Now, maybe this Egyptian paper got it wrong, and maybe these transcripts are falsified. That could be too. the bottom line, folks, it certainly gives the appearance that maybe, just maybe, not only did President Obama throw Israel under the bus by refusing to use his veto power to block this condemnation, President Obama may have actually been driving the bus by being involved behind the scenes to create this condemnation in the first place. This president has been extremely anti-Israel. I don't know how anyone could possibly deny that. All right, well, then that moves us to the issue of Palestine. I mean, what does it even mean to be, who are the Palestinians? And is it wrong for Israel to be having settlements, to be building houses and settling in these quote-unquote Palestinian territories? Are they Palestinian territories? Is this wrong? We're going to dive into all of that next and who the Palestinians are